Here are my 24-25 Premier League predictions, and I'm just going to go ahead and say some of these predictions are pretty wacky, and it's mainly based off the first three games already played and the summer signings. So yeah, they're a little bit bold, but go with it, and yeah, let's see. Okay, so in 20th place, I have Southampton, the newly promoted side from obviously down south. Southampton coming up through the playoff against Leeds. I see Southampton. I think, like most people, they're going straight back down. I mean, looking at their squad, it's just simply not strong enough against all the other clubs. I mean, it's the weakest of the three that's already come up, and they have done some good business. But looking at that back line, it's atrocious. They cannot defend. They can't pass out from the back. I don't know what they're trying to do, but whatever they're doing, they're not doing it right. But so for some of the business, they've done quite well. 18 million for Aaron Ramsdale. He's one of the better goalkeepers in the league. He's going to be the best goalkeeper in the league next season in the Championship. Sugawara, really like that signing for 6 million. I think he's an excellent player. Um, he's going to be probably one of their better players. But then you also look at 15 million for Cameron Archer, and you just think, yeah, they're going down. I don't know why they bought him. I think he's a terrible player. He was terrible last season at Sheffield United. He's not Premier League quality. He's probably not even Championship quality. And if he is, he's lower tier Championship quality. Not sure why they bought him. That's a huge mistake in my opinion. But 20th place to go straight down, Southampton. Okay, so next up on the list to go straight back down is Ipswich Town. And again, for the same reasons as Southampton, their squad is not there's not enough depth and it's not strong enough overall. Some of the signings they've made, I do quite like. Jacob Reeves for 18 million. I think he was a great player at Hull for a few years in the Championship and a few years in League One. And yeah, I think he's a great player. Also, Liam Delap for 15 million. I think that's an interesting signing. I don't think he's going to be hitting the ground running in the Premier League. He's only scored one goal, but one in three. It's not really going to help them stay up, but I think he's going to be a player over the next few years who could really help them. That's if he does stay at Ipswich. And Calvin Phillips on loan. I mean, his career's just gone completely downhill. There's a quality player in him, but he can't keep Ipswich up alone. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But again, 19th place, Ipswich Town, straight back down. And for the final team to get relegated, I've gone for a little bit of a surprising one with Everton. Now, Everton have been knocking at the door for relegation for a couple of years now. They've managed to survive year after year, only really just by a little bit. They were a little bit safe last year, even with the points deduction. But I think this is the year they go down. They've been dreadful in the first three games. They've not really signed anyone of note, and they've lost Onana for 51 million. So that's a huge loss in that midfield. And for the games that they've played, the first three, they've been completely run through in that midfield, completely run ragged. So I've got them to go down. God knows how many years they've been in the top division now, but yeah, I think this is finally the year that Everton do go down. So that means to survive in the Premier League once again will be Leicester. I quite like Leicester this season. I think they've got a lot of strong players in that squad, and I think they've strengthened a little bit, with the Crystal Palace boys, Edouard and Ayew. But I think looking at that base, it's so strong, at least for the Championship, and I think it was strong enough to survive in that Premier League. Hermansen, another Danish goalkeeper for Leicester. They know what they're doing with Danish goalkeepers. We all know what they're doing with Danish goalkeepers. He'll keep them up. Ndidi, fabulous player. I think signing Fatawu on a permanent, excellent player as well. Great last season. Of course, you've got people like Jamie Vardy, who was always going to be up for a goal, even in his age. So yeah, I mean, looking at a game they played against Tottenham as well on the opening day. Of course, they've only got 1 point in three, but they played really well against Tottenham, so I think it's not going to be a problem for them. I think might be a little bit closer, but I think they will stay up. So also to survive, I've got Nottingham Forest. I think they'll come in at 16th, and I think that's pretty fair. They've had a pretty strong start to the season already, getting 5 points. But I think this is a fairly strong Forest squad. Looking at it with Morgan Gibbs White, Anthony Elanga, it's a very strong squad. I think they've strengthened. Elliot Anderson from Newcastle, think around, what was it, 35 million. I think that's an absolute steal, to be honest. I think Elliot Anderson will probably go on to a bigger club eventually. He's still quite young, but I think he's going to boss that Forest midfield. So I think that's a great signing from them. Of course, James Ward-Prowse on loan, also a great signing. I'm not sure why West Ham let him go out on loan. I think he was all right last season. But yeah, he'll do great for them. Be interesting to see him go up against Southampton again. But yeah, a lot of decent signings for Forest, and again, they'll stay up once more, 16th place. So in 15th place, I've got Wolverhampton Wanderers. I think Wolves are a good side. I think they played quite well against Arsenal on the first game week. I think there was parts in that second half where they had really good spells, and you thought, maybe they're going to actually grab a goal. But then in the second game week, getting absolutely smashed by Chelsea 6-2. Josie Sarr will now be the second choice keeper. Sam Johnstone coming in. I can understand it. I don't think they've signed enough players. I think Andre, that's a decent signing, but he's young. We'll see about that one. I think losing Pedro Neto is going to be a massive loss. And I think the even bigger loss will be Max Kilman to West Ham. That's it. That's just a huge loss in that back line, and I'm not sure that they're actually going to be able to replace them. But yeah, they do have some solid players there, Cunha, Nelson Semedo. So I think they'll survive, and they'll survive well enough. 15th place. In 14th place, I have Brentford. Again, Brentford, they'll stay up once again. They're becoming a little bit of a regular now in the Premier League. Obviously being promoted for the first time in 3 years ago, probably now, 3 years ago. They have a strong squad. I'm not sure they've strengthened in a way that would keep them up usually, but that squad that they already have is quite strong. Obviously, they've just lost Ivan Toney, but they don't really need him. And Mbeumo, Wissa, fairly good enough. They've got that the Danish midfield, Damsgaard, Norgard, Jensen. Basically, the entire Danish national team, pretty much, it seems like. Obviously, they lost David Raya to Arsenal as well, but that doesn't really matter because they've got Flecken. Flecken is more than good enough for Brentford. So I think they'll survive, and I think they'll survive quite well. And of course, they've actually signed Fabio Carvalho from Liverpool. I think that's such a great signing from them. He went for quite a bit, if I remember rightly, but it's a great signing. He's young. He'll develop well at Brentford. So 14th place for Brentford. In 13th place, I've gone for Crystal Palace. Again, for similar reasons as Brentford, the base is quite decent. They've lost quite a few players though this summer. Looking at Joachim Anderson, that's a massive loss for them. Sam Johnstone, not a huge loss. They've already got Dean Henderson. Elise to Bayern Munich, that's a big loss as well. But they've made some interesting signings, Eddie Nketiah, we'll see how that goes. Matt Turner, decent player as well. But yeah, they've got a fairly strong squad already. Obviously, Dean Henderson, Tyrick Mitchell, Eze, Mateta. Mateta's not started as well as he finished last season, but I'm sure I think they're going to play a 4-4-2, so Mateta and Nketiah. So we'll see about that one. But yeah, 13th place, which is usually around how they finish pretty much every season anyway. But yeah, 13th place for Crystal Palace. In 12th place, I've got Fulham. I wanted to put Fulham higher, but just because they're Fulham, and I don't see them placing much higher than this, I've gone for them in 12th. I think they made some really good signings this summer. Even though they've lost João Palhinha again to Bayern Munich, so it's a huge loss for them. But they brought in Emile Smith Rowe, brought in Reece Nelson, Adama Traore still there. I think he'll be great. I think Williams left, but I don't think that's a huge loss, to be honest. I think it will be Emile Smith Rowe and Adama Traore. That's a great three there. Reece Nelson coming on probably. Yeah, it's a strong Fulham squad. Bernd Leno's a great goalkeeper. But to be honest, I just don't see them finishing much higher than 12th. They definitely won't get relegated, but really anywhere from 16th to 10th Fulham could be. So I'm just going to say 12th. In 11th place, I've gone for West Ham. I think West Ham, again, a bit like Fulham, they could finish pretty much anywhere. I think they're a little bit unpredictable this season. Obviously, they brought in the new manager, Lopetegui, David Moyes, his dinosaur football. He's finally left the club. First 3 games, they've only got a point, so it's not been a great start. But again, they've got a solid foundation. Jared Bowen, Paqueta, Kudus, Alvarez, all great players there. I think they've lost two of their better centre backs though, Zuma and Aguerd. So interesting to see how that goes. And in terms of who they've actually signed, I can't really think. Oh, Carlos Soler from PSG. He's an alright player, so I'm not sure if he comes straight into that midfield, but we'll see how he does. And of course, Aaron Wan-Bissaka as well from Manchester United. So yeah, one of the better 1v1 defenders. So I think he'll improve West Ham as well. So we'll see. But again, 11th place West Ham. In 10th place, I've gone for Bournemouth. And I think over the next few years that Bournemouth will just slowly climb higher and higher throughout the league table. I think one of these years they're probably going to get European football, and I think it could actually be Champions League football. I think that's a bit of a bold statement, but their owners seem really, really ambitious. And looking at some of the signings they've made, I mean, Evan Nilsson to Bournemouth, it's such a strange one. He's a great striker, one of these great strikers that's playing for Porto, and he's going to Bournemouth. It's just a strange one, but it's a great bit of business. Even though they've lost Solanke, they've got a great foundation. Looking at Clivert, and they brought in Kepa as well. I think he'll do well for them. Obviously, the most expensive goalkeeper of all time is now playing at Bournemouth. He's had a tough few seasons with Chelsea, but I think he'll improve them. I think losing Neto though could be a bit of a detriment to them because he was the captain, he was a leader in that dressing room. But I think 10th place, that's fair for them. Obviously, they've had a decent start as well. That amazing comeback over Everton. So yeah, 10th place, Bournemouth. In ninth place, I've gone for Manchester United. And the reason why I've done this is mostly because of the first three fixtures in which they've lost to Brighton late on and got absolutely dominated by Liverpool. I thought they were somewhat lucky against Fulham, even though they had quite a few chances. Winning 1-0 to Fulham at home on the opening day, it's not a great result. And then getting absolutely destroyed by your main rivals at home that way, it doesn't look good. Eric Ten Hag might be getting sacked this season. I'm not sure about my feelings on that. I don't really care, as I'm not a United fan, but I'm not really sure what will happen with him. I think he's a good manager. I think they do have great players there, and I thought they've brought in a lot of great players, but things just aren't clicking. Maybe it will towards the end of the season. I could see them, getting high as 4, but who knows? And realistically, with the teams that I'm putting above them, I could see all 8 teams finishing easily above United this season. So that's why I've gone for ninth place. In 8th place, just missing out on European football, I've gone for Newcastle. The reason why I think Newcastle will get 8th is because I don't think they've strengthened as much as they probably should have done. Maybe the reason was PSR, I'm not totally sure. But Lewis Hall was, I think, really the only significant signing that they've actually brought in for 28 million. He's a good player, but, I'm not sure that's enough. But they do have a very strong foundation, and I think they will finish above the other teams. But I'm not sure they're actually push on for European football. But they've had a really good start, in fairness. They've only just beaten Tottenham at home, which was a great result for them. So for Newcastle, I've gone 8th place. So the first team getting European football on this list will be Brighton, and I think they'll get the Conference League this season. I think they've strengthened decently well. Already they have a very young, very energetic squad. Apart from James Milner, but even him, he's a great player as well. But strengthening with the likes of Rutter for 40 million, I think. 30 Kadioglu for 26 million, I want to say. He'll be great in their defence. But yeah, they've had a really good start, in fairness. Smashing Everton on the opening day, winning late on against United, and getting a draw out of Arsenal, albeit a 10-man Arsenal, but still. It's been a great start for Brighton, and new life under Hertzler. I think he's going to be a very top manager for them. Very young manager, but he'll be there a while, and he's with young players, so I think he'll have a lot of influence over them. So 7th place, Brighton. So for getting Europa League football, I've gone for Chelsea, and Chelsea are a little bit unpredictable, but towards the end of last season, they did actually find a little bit of form. Of course, with a new manager now, I'm unsure where they'll actually finish, so I'm just going to guess at 6th place. They brought in a lot of players, and I mean a lot of players. I mean, João Felix, Penders, Sancho, Adrabeo, Estivo, Omari Kellyman, Guiu, Dewsbury Hall, Vega, Wiley, Jorgensen, Anselmino, Pedro Neto. So many players, too many players. Um, but yeah, with the squad depth that they got, they should be finishing quite highly. And with the investment that they've made, they should be finishing quite highly. So I'm just going to say sixth place for Chelsea. In fifth place, I've gone Tottenham Hotspur. And the reason why I've gone fifth for Tottenham is that I think the signings they've made are good, but I'm just not sure there's enough there. You know, Archie Gray, I think he's going to be a great player, but he's 18. He's not there yet. And 35 million is quite a lot for him. Odober, again, 19 years old. He's not quite there yet. Might be in a few years, we'll see. I think Solanke is a good one. But we don't really have one actually this season. So for me, Tottenham Hotspur, I'm not sure they're actually going to get top four. They may get Champions League football with how the new format is, depending on how the English teams do this season. But I've gone for fifth place, Tottenham Hotspur. So for the first of the top four, I've gone with Aston Villa. And again, I think Aston Villa will get Champions League football for the second time running in succession. The reason why I think this is because they've already got a very good base. Unai Emery is clearly a very good manager. He knows what he's doing. And the signings they've made have also been quite good as well. You know, Onana, 50 million, really good signing right there. I think he's one of the better DMs in the league. Very underrated. Um, you know, getting Morgan Rogers back in February, he's a great player. We're seeing it now. He was brilliant against Arsenal, and again, they've got a really strong foundation there. So yeah, top four, Aston Villa. So down to the top three, and in third place, I've gone with Liverpool, and I might have got this one wrong, given how the first three games have gone. They played very good. I'm not sure they're going to win the league though. It just might be too much for Arne Slot in his first season. And really, it's only because I just don't think they've brought in enough. I mean, they brought in another goalkeeper on loan, and they brought in Chiesa, and I just don't think it's enough. But again, they're not really lost anyone, so maybe it balances out. But I think they needed to improve from last season. But yeah, I could see them winning another cup, probably going far in the Champions League. But I just don't think they brought in enough. So for that reason, Liverpool are third. But honestly, with Liverpool, I really don't know. They could go on and win it with how they've started, at least. So now down to the top two. And for me, this is definitely thought more with my heart than with my head. So I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Second place, Manchester City. And of course, first place, Arsenal. And I really don't know. I really don't know with this one. I'm saying Arsenal because, I mean, past two seasons, they've got closer and closer every year. I mean, every year there has been an improvement with Arteta. There's no denying that. So you just have to think that, you know, eventually the law of averages, they will win it, you know, unless they drop off dramatically. But I think the first three games have shown, again, they're here to stay. You know, they've only got 7 points, but I think it was a pretty decent game against Brighton, all things considered. Probably have them as the favourites, but of course it is my football club. And the reason why I've gone Man City for second is purely because eventually, you know, they're not going to win it every single year unless they do. But eventually they're going to come second at some point. I mean, it's only a matter of time. And again, it's only a matter of time before a new winner. And with Arsenal getting better every single year, I've gone first place Arsenal. But yeah, you know, realistically, Arsenal probably have a closer chance of finishing second or third than coming first. But in my opinion, Arsenal to win the league for the 24-25 season.